Hi, where are you?
I'm doing great. So, just to start things off, would you like to introduce yourself?
Oh, can I ask you first?
Oh,
You talked about your community, and I didn't really understand what it was, and perhaps if you let me know who you are and yeah,
well,
and
I'm
where you are, that'd be
yeah.
fun.
I'm Jacob, and I'm an aspiring filmmaker and animator. So, um, I really enjoy those mediums and getting to work with
Mm.
them. And obviously, I'm into the adaptations of your work, and it's just it's really awesome to see indie animation pop off like that.
Yeah, great. And where are you based, Jacob?
Texas.
Okay. Oh yeah, I've been to Houston a few times.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So yeah. How about you?
Yeah, sure. Well, I guess I've always written since I was young. So Jayne Lyons is my pen name.
Mm.
So I work full time in the resource industry, actually in decarbonisation at the moment, decarbonising energy. And I started. I was older than my sisters because my dad died when I was a baby,
Mm.
and my mum remarried later. So I was like 10 and 12 years older than my two sisters. So I was like the storyteller. And so that's how it started. So I'd make up stories for them, and then it just grew into writing them down. So I wrote I wrote a couple of books before 100% Wolf, and then that was published in 2008. So I'm from the UK. I don't know if you can tell I've got an English accent, not
Yeah.
Australian. Yeah, so I was born in a place called Liverpool, which is famous for soccer and Beatles. And then I moved to Australia in 2005, I think. Yeah, 2005. And then I've been here since then. We only came for 2 years, but we never went back. So
Um, what would you say was the inspiration for 100% Wolf? Like, what made you want to go about creating those stories like that, those characters like Freddy and the world?
so I wanted to write a children's novel. And this sounds a bit selfish, but partly because I it could just come out of my head. Because if you wanted to write a novel that wasn't fantasy, I'd have to research it. And I was a young mom, and I was working full time, looking after my daughter. And it's like I just need to be able to download from my head. So that was the first thing: is I have to be able to make this up and not have to fact check anything. So, um, and then I knew I wanted to write something funny because I don't take anything seriously. And then so I wanted to have a funny adventure, but which really had a heart in it, though. And so I had this idea in my head about, like coldits, but dogs escaping a coldits thing. And how funny would that be? And then I thought, well, who would the hero be? And so it had to be. The great thing about creating and writing is you can be so cruel to your main character if it's a comedy, because they've got to be, they've got to grow and learn. So I thought, well, what would be fantastic would be a character who was a bit up himself. I don't know if you've got that's I learned that phrase when I came to Australia. I love it. Being up yourself. So
I've
so
heard
he
that.
had to be up himself, i.e. full of himself. And then it's so much funnier then when it's a disaster. And so what could be the worst thing for a werewolf would be to turn into a poop. Because it's the uncoolest thing possible. And it's just got that tagline. It's so catchy, and it's so. And the minute I would say it got picked up very quickly for publishing, because the tagline is just a boy from a long line of werewolves. His life's a disaster because he turns into a poodle, and it's immediately funny. So that's kind of where it started. But just I can't remember exactly when I had the idea, but that's how it sort of gelled.
Hmm. Um, so I know like things get adapted right into film, TV, and stuff. When that happened, were you in any shape or form involved with the production? Like, what was the relationship like?
Yeah. So the film rights got picked up pretty quickly by So it was actually quite, the first book was 100% wolf. That was published in the US, Australia, places like Taiwan and Italy, but it wasn't worldwide. But somebody out of an animator production house out of LA picked it up, and she contacted me just as you did, through the website. But then she kind of had, and that wasn't like for mega bucks. That was just very small. Can I see if I can get this through, through the whole saga to try and get a feature going? And it was actually 5 years later that it really started to get some traction when there was a deal with the folks out in Sydney, in Australia. And then so it took a long time. It'd been through several trials of a script, and it was getting further and further away from the book. And I wasn't really that interested because I thought, well, this is just not my book anymore. But fortunately, when it got to Flying Bark, which is the production house in Australia, they went straight back to the original screenplay. Not screenplay, the original story and the characters. Yeah, and so from the outset, I got on with them fantastic because I was new, because I'd studied literature at college, and I was always very interested in film remakes of books, because I learned very early on a film and a book cannot be the same. They're completely different media. And so I was really interested in how books, they would take the source material, and if it was done well, they would keep the source material, but the film had to be different. It had to have its strict acts. It had to have. And so I was already mentally there before we went through the process. And they were just a joy to work with. And they involved me with everything, with the screen. They explained to me why certain things had changed from my original, but they kept the core characters and they kept the core feel of it all. And so, yeah, they showed, I went over and I saw the early, what do you call it when you do all your early sketching? Storyboarding, yeah, all that stuff. And then the different phases of the 3D and the script coming back to me. I didn't have any vetoes, but they listened to it if I had concerns, and I didn't really have many concerns. And it was fantastic. So I saw every stage of it. Yes, as it developed. And then your sketch animation in 3D whilst the characters are being designed, and then how it all came together, and then the music came on. So yeah, I saw every stage. It was fantastic. I think you're all very clever if that's what you do.
Tell me about but yeah, I guess that would kind of knock down my next question, but at the same time, I'm like, what would you go about, like, continuity wise? How does everything look to you as the creator?
I tell you what, the most difficult thing for me to cope with was because I made Freddie, who's the hero, quite unpleasant at the beginning, because he has to learn a lesson. So he's not nice at the very beginning. He's mean to his cousins. He's so full of himself. He's just showing off that he's the one who's going to be a werewolf. And so my wolves were scarier, and the only thing that irked me slightly was he wasn't as unpleasant at the beginning, because I guess in a film you've got to catch the kids straight away. He's got to be adorable straight away. There's a little bit of it in the film, and then the wolves being like heroes. That was like, whoa, hang on, my wolves aren't heroes, they're baddie. They're scary. I mean, they're not evil. That's the whole point of the theme of the book. It's about judging those who look different from us. Because I think the book opens like, have you ever met a werewolf? You'll say they're scary, but who's met one? Nobody. And this is what I kind of do when I go and talk to kids in schools. What do we think about werewolves? Oh, they got scary and they're this and that. And then so who's met one? And no hands go up. But now and again, there's a smart aleck who'll put their hand up. I have. But that's the kind of the theme of the book is they're persecuted, really.
Mm.
So they kept that core theme of, well, werewolves are just like us. It doesn't matter what colour your skin is. It doesn't matter if you got fur. It doesn't matter what your orientation is. It's your heart that matters. So that's they kept that core theme, which I really liked. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I noticed in the books because I've read a few of them. He has three forms, right, in the books, right? Because he can flip flop.
In the book, yeah, but they I think that was too complicated for the film.
Mm. Yeah, because I watched the sequel like
Mm.
back last year in August when it came out, and I
Mm.
was like, yeah, they brought the wolf finally,
Yeah.
but then they kind of throw it away. It's like,
Yeah. So the way they explained it, it was funny because we definitely got into political correctness as well, which when I wrote it probably was not so much a thing. I mean, it's written very much about tolerance of all people, werewolves included. Don't judge people until you've met them. Don't just assume about people. But I think the feeling was because it could be viewed. I believe I don't want to put words in their mouth. My impression was that if he was a pink poodle, i.e., this is potentially indicating that he might be, queer or trans, or it wasn't designed that way. It was just what would a boy who thinks he's tough not want to be would be a pink poodle. That was just it. But I was very aware that it also had that connotation about sexuality. So I think in terms of the sensitivity to making the film, because that would be 10 years after the book, was that if he was seen to be a pink poodle and then finally goes, yes, I'm a real wolf, that would be seen to, I'm rejecting the core principle of I can be who I am. It doesn't matter if I'm a pink poodle. You see what I mean? So I
Mhm.
think I think that was the sensitivity there. But yeah, in my books, he can flip. Yeah,
Well, because I think he deserves to be a wolf again eventually.
yeah,
So,
yeah. Well,
uh,
that was the way I wrote it, so
yeah,
that's
so
my preference.
yeah. Another question, big question. It just came to mind. What are your thoughts on Eli Swindles? How do you
On what? Sorry.
Eli Swindles, the guy who
Oh
portrays,
yeah,
what do you think of him, how he portrays
I
Freddy?
I think it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And what I think is especially when I actually wrote him an email a couple of years ago and said when I'm writing my new book, it's his voice in my head now, being Freddie. He does it so well, and I think it's especially significant to me that he's Indigenous. I don't know if you know he's an Indigenous Australian because it really and which is you know their history here has not been fun, you know, like all the First Nations people. So I think it really ties in well for me with uh, the minority who's probably suffered throughout history as well. But that's a small part of it. The main part of it is he's just so talented and he just brings the character to life. I think he does it really well. Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm really pleased with it. Yeah.
Um, we can. I'm gonna.
You can ask whatever you like. It's fine.
Yeah,
You don't need to go in order.
yeah. So we had some questions from the community. I may or may not ask the second one, but the first one is maybe you already touched on this, but why the color pink?
Primarily because because he wanted to be such a boy, such a hero. It was to just make him just be utterly humiliated. Yeah. but then once I thought that idea, then I started playing on it's all about minorities and being different. So I thought, yeah, that works as well on that dual thing there. Mm. It
Um,
doesn't mean he's gay. He's not anything. He's too young to it's not that. It's just it's a little bit of a perhaps the adults might pick it up or something. But the kids
hmm,
just go, this is fun and this is silly. Yeah. I
hmm.
mean, the funniest thing to me wasn't the pink, it was the cutting his hair and, little poodle. I mean, they're just the most ridiculous animals, aren't they? Come on.
Real.
So the sillier the better was just it, really. Just
Yeah. Um,
humiliating. So,
and the second question, it's totally optional if you want to answer it. It's a bit niche, but in the across the media, they have like their own language, right? And
they have little words, yeah, like transmorphation and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, is
So
that what you mean?
yeah, like because we have like pictures of the runes from the show. We're because we're nerding out, right? Obviously about the
Oh,
details.
right, yeah, the show. So you're talking, yeah. So I didn't get into Rune. So what happened? In terms of the, I noticed you were going to ask a question about the canon and all that stuff. So what happened with the first book is that they pretty much followed what I did. Um, I don't recall any runes in that. I think they brought that in. Um, then the TV series was, well, can we take Freddie and put him into um, a new environment? So he gets he's older in the TV series, and you pick that up, because he's a bit younger in the book in the film. And so now he's a teenager, and so he's got to get a new set of friends. So they that's when they like created the subgenre. So I didn't create those characters. They took my main characters and then developed the TV series story from that, and some of the folklore or the lore, not folklore, the wolf lore, LORE, into that. Then the second series came next, where they then developed him from that experience and put him into the new school, etc., with new adventures. And I really liked the new characters they created. They were fun, and they were all quite different. And then the second film came after that. So in the second film, then we're going as a sequel to the first film rather than the TV series. And then they were creating lore there. So that's nothing based on my work. That is
Hmm.
just, they took the main characters and created a new story from them.
Okay.
Not I didn't. They sent me that script, but because I hadn't written it, I was less emotionally involved with it. I still thought it was a great film. It looked good.
It was
And when I
pretty it
went
was
to the
pretty beautiful.
premiere with all the screaming kids going up and down the aisles, then they all enjoyed it. So,
No, no, that movie brought a tear to my
yeah,
eye.
it was very sweet. It was very beautifully made. I thought the colors and the animation.
Um,
Yeah.
so that would lead me.
Oh, and then you were just going to ask on in how it will work, and so then I've actually since then. So the second book was 100% Hero, which follows Freddie in my exact world into his next disaster, and then the third book is I published this year myself, which was um, Power of the Firestone.
Mhm.
100% more power, which is on Amazon now. I self-published that one because I just got sick of waiting for publishers. So I thought, I don't need you, I'm going to do it myself. And that really takes him. I don't know if you've read that one, have you?
I have it actually.
You have it, yeah, yeah. So the story in that for your community is him. I always had this idea of wanting to go back in time so the real legend in my books is about um, I can't remember his name. What was he called? Great ancestor. Anyway, the great ancestor, the knight, with his sword saving people in the past. And so Freddie goes back in time and meets his ancestors, which is lots of fun because I'm from the UK. I love medieval history, so that was fun.
Um, that would be that would lead in my next thing. You've heard of the theme park, right?
Which theme part?
They're making a 100% Wolf theme park attraction in
No one told me about
Germany.
this.
Oh yeah. So there's let me see if I can bring it up. Hold on, if you give me a second. Holiday Park in Germany.
Oh, in Germany. All right, yeah, because
Mhm.
that's where the so Flying Bark is their master company or whatever you call it is a German company.
Studio 100, yeah.
Yeah, Studio 100. Yeah. Wow. Can you send me an email regarding that? I have to find out what's going on there.
I guess the next question, any future plans for the franchise going forward?
That franchise. So I have written. I talked about the TV series. So yeah, I've actually written a small novella follow up of those characters from the TV series going on a school trip. And I think it's School Trip to Transylvania or something, I've called it. Can't remember. Um, so if the Power of the Firestone does well, then I'll probably self-publish that one as well.
Awesome.
And then there's another one. Hang on, nothing to do with 100% Wolf. I don't know if you've heard of this one. Um, Z for Zanto.
I've seen it briefly.
Yeah. So again, this was something I published because I'm from Liverpool. I'm so mad, so or football, as I say. Um, and along the same lines of wanting uh, to flip. I think the thing about 100% when you're flipping something on its head. So it's a werewolf piece of poo, flip it, flip it. So what would be really fun, when can't you get on the soccer team? Well, when you're a zombie because you're dead. You know, you can't get on the team if you're dead. Well, hang on a minute, he's going to get on the team. He doesn't care if he's dead. And so um, this this one, I actually worked in conjunction with a charity called Save the Children. I don't know if you've heard of them.
I've heard of those.
Yeah, and so through my day job, I worked a lot in Africa, and I was worked with Save the Children there, and I got to know them, and I said, "Is there anything I can do help out?" And they said, "Oh, you can write us a book." I said, "Okay, I'll write you a book." And so what it was at the time, when the Syrian conflict happened, and there was lots of Syrian refugees going across Europe about 5 years ago.
That sounds
There was these
familiar.
there's these poor people had to leave their country and there's trooping along with their kids, and it was just so sad. And so I kind of wrote about the zombies like they were refugees. And then so Zanto, he starts off being alive, and then there's like a zombie invasion, and then they're gonna, get rid of the zombies, so they all have to flee. And anyway, he ends up. How's he still gonna be the hero? He was a zombie, and it's written really to get kids thinking a bit more deeply about things, but they don't need to. It's still just a fun adventure, but it's very sweet. That one would bring a tear to your eye. But
I definitely need to
anyway,
check that out.
yeah. Well, if you can tell your community that all my books are available, if they go to my website, there's links that take you to the online purchases. So I think there's only 100% Wolf and 100% Hero in the bookshops now, but the rest are online.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll definitely give it a read. But just like that, do you have any other additional ideas, books you're working on besides 100% Wolf, just like that?
Um, like I said, probably the school trip to Transylvania, 100% Wolf school trip to Transylvania. I'll probably self-publish at some point. I'm just a bit busy with my day job at the moment. And I've just actually finished rewriting two books that I've been doing over the last 10 years. One is for adults, it's like a Victorian Gothic,
Hmm.
like in Victorian era in the UK. Kind of, I don't know if you've heard of, Jane Eyre sort of feel up north, it's grim, and a
Mhm.
psychiatrist and asylums, and it's all very weird and who's telling the truth. And that's called Delusion, which I'm just finishing the final edit tonight, hopefully, or tomorrow. And then there's another one that I finished. This is funny. It started off as a young adult adventure fantasy set in like Napoleonic era, but with its own lore of Lord of the Rings type elves, but they don't look like elves with pointy ears. They're just slightly different, a bit scary, not accepted. And then it's just melding that whole thing across Dickensian slums and Napoleonic wars and stuff. So I've just been, and then I originally sent that out a couple of years ago, and the feedback was, "Oh my god, this is page turning. It's so exciting, but it's too violent for young adults." And I said, "Well, not the young adults I know, but." So they said you can either take out the violence or you need to make it into an adult fantasy book. So I said, well, I'm not losing the violence, so I'll make it into
Might as
an
well.
adult fantasy. So that's kind of a Napoleonic Game of Thrones slash Oliver Twist type feel, and I think it's brilliant. But we'll see what happens.
Hmm. I'm gonna have to check that out. That's kind of up my alley.
uh, well, I'm looking for reviewers if you're interested. Yeah,
Yeah,
I can send
I
you
can.
a. No, honestly, I can send you a PDF and you could give me some feedback.
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Because my agent is Australian, and we've agreed that my older books are very English, and so I need to find an agent and a publisher in the UK. So
Well,
that's
at this point in time, I'm not really consuming a lot of American entertainment anymore. I'm out there. That's why I found you and I found all this
mm,
German stuff because there's just so much amazing stuff out there from the international market. It's
yeah. I
just,
think. Oh, well, I definitely would appreciate a reviewer
I will definitely,
before I send it out. Yeah, it's
but
always good to test your work out. But sometimes it's brutal, the feedback, but you got to take it.
for sure, for sure. But yeah, that is all the questions I have for you. Anything else
No
you want to
worries.
add before we wrap it up?
No, just I'm always free to anybody contacting me is absolutely fine. Can I ask a question? Did you try and contact my email on that website or just my agent's?
Well, first, I reached out to your agent, your manager, because I
Yeah.
was like, do I want to talk to the to the
Oh,
head
I don't know.
honcho? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, I was just double checking because you know what it's like. I just get so many junk emails. I don't know from robots that sometimes I think, do I miss things coming through? Because it's just delete, 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 delete. It's all nonsense. But anyway,
Well,
well, no, look,
if I have anything else, I'll definitely email you for sure.
yeah, do email me directly, and if you've got any of your community you want to get in touch, that's absolutely fine. Yeah,
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time.
yeah.
Really
If
appreciate
you
having
wouldn't
you.
mind, yeah, telling all your mates about the website
I will
because
definitely link it.
it's got all the links there for the books. Yeah.
Mhm. All right.
All right. And what about you? What projects are you working on at the moment?
Um, I do a lot of movie reviews.
Yeah.
Um, so and on top of that, I do a lot of animation. So
Yeah.
maybe I'll send you some of my work.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
It's there's just something about that medium that it's just I feel like it's like a distressor for me.
That's exciting. It. I'm the same. I found like I said, I've got a grown-up job, I call it, which is full time, but I found it could be a highly stressful job because I'm kind of at executive level. So it could be very stressful, but because I can just come home and I just go off into fantasy world, then my stress switches off because I'm not thinking about work. I'm just in my own world creating things. It's a bit the same as you, I guess.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on. That was Jayne Lyons, everyone.